Hello parents, this is Dr. Lalit Mittal from Giggles Clinic and my own space. So this is a short video about understanding neuroscience behind anxiety in autism. We all know that anxiety too happens in all children, in all adults. But what is the reason why this anxiety becomes such a big problem in children who are on the spectrum, and why they are not able to control the emotions, and why it leads to dysregulation of the emotions and various other issues associated with autism. So we'll try to understand the neuroscience behind this anxiety in autism through this diagram which I prepared on this board. I'll try to explain each and everything, and hopefully by the end of this lecture we'll be able to understand the neuroscience behind anxiety in autism. So first and the foremost thing we should know that in the brain there are three most important structures: anterior cingulate gyrus, amygdala and hippocampus. Now these are the three most important structures of the brain which constitute the subcortical regions of the brain. So these three structures, anterior cingulate gyrus, amygdala, hippocampus, they constitute the subcortical regions of the brain, and these three structures play a very important role in regulating our emotions and anxiety in any child, in any adult. Now first we'll try to understand what are the functions of amygdala. Now this amygdala plays a very important role in fear, flight and fright. Now we can easily remember by the name 3Fs, means to say flight, fright and fear. Means it plays an important role in controlling our emotions, in our emotional events or any events in the past recalled which has happened, and that may lead to anxiety, fear in future. So for example, if I give you an example, in a neurotypical child, a 3-year-old child may be afraid of going into a dark room. So for the first time when he enters into the dark, he may be suddenly get frightened. He wanted to run away. So why does he got frightened? Because our amygdala system got activated and it tells the child to get away. I'm feeling scared. So as a result he feels scared or frightened. Now similarly, if this child happens to go in this room again, maybe after 1 week or 2 weeks, again he may get frightened, because that event of recall of frightened has appeared, that in the dark room he will get afraid. So again this amygdala system gets activated and child gets frightened, and the same emotions repeats again. Now, so this is the function of amygdala. I'll try to explain in correlation with the autism or an autistic child. Just first we'll explain about the basic functions, then we'll approach and we'll discuss how this scenario varies from a neurotypical compared to an autistic child. Now then coming to the next important structure, that is a hippocampus. Now hippocampus plays a very important role in learning. Memory and storage. Now from learning, the child will learn. After learning, he will store that learning process, and that will help in long-term memory and storage. Hence, it plays a very important role in academics, recall of facts, objects and places. Now, this is the most important fact, that why children who are on the spectrum, they are not able to understand learning at a one go. They are not able to understand, they are not able to memorize or recall of facts and objects. Why? Because their hippocampus structure is not very well developed, and there is a feedback issues between anterior cingulate gyrus, amygdala and hippocampus, because all these three structures work in together. Now what happens, suppose if that is the reason why children who are on the spectrum, we have to make them learn again and again. Just on a single go they will not be able to understand. They have problems with recall of memory. That is why if we tell a child who is on the spectrum कि आज सुबह हमने क्या खाया, he will not be able to remember that. But a similar child who of similar age, who is a neurotypical child, he will be able to remember that, because the problem lies in the hippocampus, their regulation system, the subcortical regions. So this is the fact we have to recall again and again, work with the child on academics, work on his learning memory, so that his memory keeps on building again and again. Now then, so this is about the hippocampus. Now if we study about, the third most important structure which comes is the anterior cingulate gyrus. Now this anterior cingulate gyrus is the most important structure which regulates the functions of amygdala and hippocampus. Now what happens, this anterior cingulate gyrus is the one which plays a very important role in motivation. Means what the child has to do. There is an internal sense of motivation which makes the child to carry out the functions. For example, learning, playing with the peers, want to do some activities. That is the reason we always feel that our children who are on the spectrum, they don't have the motivation to learn. हमको उनको ज़बरदस्ती कराना पड़ता है, सब कुछ ज़बरदस्ती करना पड़ता है. Why? Because the structure anterior cingulate gyrus is not functioning properly, or it is not very much mature. As a reason, we have to motivate them again and again, because this structure which is involved in motivation is not working properly. Then you have another important function of this anterior cingulate gyrus is reward based decision making. Now this anterior cingulate gyrus plays a very important role in decision making. What decision has to be taken, what decision has to be taken in what point of time. Now another important thing is conflict resolution. We have often seen children who are on the spectrum, they are always confused. They are not able to carry out the function what is given to them. For example, if we give them a complex command, go and close the door and get me a glass of water, they will get confused. So there will be a conflict of commands will come, because the brain is not able to process. The reason why they are not able to process is because the anterior cingulate gyrus is not mature enough to carry out the proper function and to resolve the conflict which is happening between the different commands and different parts of the brain and the function. Enable thinking process, logical thinking. That is why we always say the logical thinking is not very much, their cognition is not very much improved. 80% of the children who are on the spectrum, definitely their cognition is affected, might be low, might be high, depending upon the level. It's not that their cognition is affected or they are intellectually impaired. No, the reason why there is that, because there's subcortical regions of the brain, especially the anterior cingulate gyrus, is not mature enough to carry out that logical thinking process which a child of similar age will be able to carry out. For example, if I tell a child, a 4-year-old child or neurotypical child, to solve a puzzle of 10 puzzles, he may be able to solve, but a similar child of that age who is on the spectrum will not be able to do that. The reason is because his anterior cingulate gyrus is not mature enough at that particular age. Probably he may be able to solve that image once he reaches to the age of 6 years. So this is the reason. Another important thing, decision making. What decisions has to be taken in what point of time. Now generally we see that whenever there is some decision making is there, whenever we are confused in a particular activity or so, what decision is right, what decision is wrong, what has to be taken, that is not being very much taken by the children who are on the spectrum. If I give you an example, for example, if I tell the child who is on the spectrum, okay, you have to get me a glass of water, or from the kitchen or from the room. So definitely he has to take the right decision from where he has to get the glass of water. He might be confused whether he might go into kitchen, he might go into the room, he doesn't know. Because it depends upon what we have taught him. For him, the bedroom may be a kitchen if he has not seen the kitchen, or so this is just an example to make you understand the decision making, what decision making at what particular time the child has to take, which is lacking in the children who are on the spectrum. Pause. Now then coming to about the pros and cons. Now anterior cingulate gyrus, another important function of anterior cingulate gyrus is pros and cons of a particular action. For example, a small child is there and a big child, say a 5-year-old child is there. So he should, if he beats that small child, he must be knowing that yes, अगर मैं इसको मारता हूँ, if I beat the small kid, he may get injury. So he knows the pros and cons of that particular action. So I should not beat him. I should not beat the small kid. But this thing may be lacking in the children who are on the spectrum. He may not be able to understand कि अगर वो गुस्सा भी होगा, he may hit him without knowing कि अगर मैं इसको मारता हूँ तो he may get injury. So this is what we know by the term pros and cons. That means they are not able to understand that yes, I should not beat the child because he may get injury, because the anterior cingulate gyrus is not functioning properly. Now what happens, for example, now take for example, if I was giving you an example about flight and fear. For example, see, if a child goes into a normal neurotypical child, if I take an example, a 6-year-old child is very much frightened about a particular thing. For example, he is frightened for the first time when going to in front of a dog. So he gets run away, or he will start screaming. But what happens after some time, he gets normalized. He gets that, he gets that braveness in him, that doesn't matter, I will cross from it, nothing will happen. Why? The reason why happens because this anterior cingulate gyrus sends the feedback to the amygdala and tells and becomes dominant over amygdala and tells you have to take the right decision, you have to cross from this road, doesn't matter the dog will not bite you. So that sense of feeling and decision making comes. Whereas if the similar thing would be there in the child who is on the spectrum, he would be start crying, he would be showing tantrums, or he would have run away from there. He would have not able to deal with that situation. Why? Because in that situation, the anterior cingulate gyrus is not dominant enough to tell the amygdala that you have to carry out this function. In that situation, the amygdala is more dominant than anterior cingulate gyrus. This is the reason why the fear, anxiety keeps on building in the children who are on the spectrum, because they are not able to take the right decision at the right point of time because the anterior cingulate gyrus is not mature enough. Another example, if we give, for example, hippocampus, which plays a very important role in academics and recall of facts and objects. Now, what happens? Suppose again, if we have always seen that a normal child, a neurotypical child, we have to teach them 3 to 4, 1 or 2 times. Whereas the children who is on the spectrum, we have to teach them 4 to 5 times. Why? Because this hippocampus is again weak enough and it is not able to send the signals to the anterior cingulate gyrus, and this anterior cingulate gyrus is not able to tell hippocampus that you have to recall of the facts, you have to recall of the memory. Why? Because it is not dominant enough, and the signal, the feedback from the anterior cingulate gyrus to the hippocampus is not sufficient enough to tell the child to get the recall of facts, objects. So this is the reason we have to repeat them with the facts and again, tell them so that the memory, the recall keeps on building to make the hippocampus mature enough. Now then you have another important thing. So this is the concept about the anterior cingulate gyrus, the various functions of anterior cingulate gyrus, the various functions of hippocampus, the various functions of amygdala. Now we will be coming how we can regulate these calming behaviors, or how can we regulate these anxiety issues in children who are on the spectrum. So there is a phenomenon there is basically a you can say a theory has come up which is known by the name SEAL. Now what does SEAL says? Now this is basically means social, emotional, academic learning. Now this SEAL basically has 5 parameters: self-awareness, responsible decision making, self-management, and social awareness. Now if these 5 factors we are able to work on the child with the spectrum, definitely his anxiety levels, his calming brain will come down. So now coming to this calming anxiety or reducing it. So these are the 5 parameters on we have to work. First it is self-awareness. Now what is self-awareness? Self-awareness means where the child is able to regulate and recognize his emotions, values and strength. Now this is very important on the child who is on the spectrum, to regulate his emotions, regulate his values, strengths and limitation. They should aware. So the most important thing is self-awareness. We should have to teach them self-awareness. Second important thing is responsible decision making, means they have to take the right constructive choices, especially in social settings, which is lacking in the children who are on the spectrum. Another thing is relationship skills. Maintaining good relationship skills is another important factor which will help in reducing the anxiety. What happens? Generally, what happens if a child tells them, okay, let's play with us, the children who are on the spectrum, without thinking about the others, without thinking about the emotions of others, whether they may feel bad or good, they will simply say no if they are not in a mood. So that hampers the relationship skills among the peers, among the human beings. So that is very, very important to work upon. Another important, the social awareness. That is the same thing, that is understanding the emotions of others, peers. The last is self-management. Now this is another important thing which is lacking in the children who are on the spectrum. That is management of the emotions to achieve goals. Now what happens if I tell them, okay, you stand on the balancing board and count for 10. He may not be able to achieve that goal. As a result, he may get frustrated. Either he may throw tantrums, and because he is not able to carry out this function, and again he may try to work on that. As a result, he may get frustrated. He may throw tantrums. He may not be able to understand because he is not able to regulate his emotions. So he may get frustrated. So this is very, very important, to control the emotions to achieve their goals. So this was a brief about anxiety, the neuroscience, and some basic, the theory which has come up in reducing the anxiety and providing a calming effect to the brain in children who are on the spectrum, about the SEAL protocol and about the various functions of about anterior cingulate gyrus, hippocampus and amygdala, how it plays an important role in anxiety in children who are on the spectrum. I hope it was a useful video for all of us. Thank you so much.